Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're taking a closer look at the aftermath of Hurricane Milton, which just slammed into Florida.
It's a pretty big deal.
3 hurricanes in 1 year is unusual,
Yeah.
even for a hurricane-prone state.
Yeah, that's not normal.
We'll come back to whether that's a coincidence or part of a larger pattern, but first, let's assess the damage.
It's important to understand the scope of what we're dealing with.
Right.
We're looking at a Category 3 hurricane at landfall, a death toll already in the double digits. CNN reports 5 fatalities in St. Lucie County alone, millions without power, and a trail of destruction along the Atlantic coast.
And that's not even mentioning how incredibly fast Milton escalated. It set a new record, the fastest a storm has ever gone from a tropical depression to a Category 5 hurricane in the Atlantic. 180-mile-per-hour winds on Monday. That's just days after Helene hit as a Category 4. Yeah. What made this storm so different?
This is where it gets really interesting. The Gulf water temperatures played a critical role in Milton's rapid intensification.
Oh, yeah.
Think of it like this. The warmer the water, the more heat energy is available to transfer into the air. This creates powerful updrafts, essentially fueling the hurricane's engine. With sea surface temperatures 1 to 3 degrees Celsius above average, according to Climate Central, Milton was practically supercharged as it moved across the Gulf.
So it's not just that warmer water makes hurricanes stronger, it can make them intensify much faster, giving people less time to prepare. And imagine if Milton had lingered over those warm waters even longer.
Exactly. The fact that it intensified so quickly likely contributed to the storm's impact and highlights a concerning trend we're seeing with intensifying hurricanes.
Speaking of impact, the rainfall from this storm was astonishing. Over 18 inches in St. Petersburg, they called it a 1-in-1,000-year rainfall event. That's almost impossible to fathom.
And you're right to focus on the rainfall. While wind speed often dominates the headlines, flooding is often the most destructive aspect of a hurricane. To say this was a 1-in-1,000-year event means that statistically, rainfall this extreme has only a 0.1% chance of happening in any given year. It really underscores the severity of the flooding we're seeing.
And the article I read mentioned the FEMA director saying Florida dodged the worst-case scenario. Which, on the one hand, sounds like good news, but on the other hand, it makes you wonder, how much worse could it have been?
Well, there were a few key factors that mitigated the damage this time. Thankfully, the storm moved relatively quickly, which limited the total rainfall in any one location. And much of Florida has sandy soil, which is much better at absorbing water than, say, clay. If Milton had stalled over the coast or hit an area with less permeable ground, the flooding could have been exponentially worse.
Well, that is a sobering thought. And as if the flooding wasn't enough, Milton also unleashed a barrage of tornadoes.
Which is unfortunately becoming more and more common with these rapidly intensifying storms.
It's just, the sheer number of tornadoes is it's kind of mind-boggling. Over 30 reported, with a record-breaking 125 tornado warnings issued.
Right.
That's unheard of, right?
Yeah, it's definitely unusual. Even with hurricanes, they're known to spawn tornadoes, but This is a lot. And again, it goes back to that rapid intensification. The faster a hurricane strengthens, the more unstable the atmosphere becomes, increasing the likelihood of tornadoes.
And it seems like St. Lucie County just can't catch a break. Already hit hard by the hurricane itself, they were then slammed with 9 tornadoes.
Wow.
3 of those within 25 minutes.
Oh, man.
The mayor said he'd never seen anything like it in his 20 years living there.
Yeah, and that's understandable. To experience that level of concentrated tornado activity alongside a hurricane is incredibly rare. It also kind of underscores a point that some research highlighted in the article brings up, is that climate models predict not only more frequent and intense hurricanes in the future, but also the corresponding increase in hurricane-spawned tornadoes.
Yeah. It makes you think about how we prepare for these storms in the future. It's not just about batten down the hatches for the hurricane itself, but also being ready for these cascading effects.
Exactly. And we haven't even touched on the lingering impacts, millions still without power, gas shortages across the state. The article mentioned 2,000 gas stations were completely out of fuel. It's a stark reminder that the immediate aftermath is just the beginning.
It's like a domino effect. This year, we've already seen Beryl, Debbie, Francine, then Helene, and now Milton. 5 hurricanes making landfall that's more than the past 3 years combined. And it's only October.
It is a busy season. And it's interesting you mentioned those other hurricanes because the article states that having 3 hurricanes hit Florida in a single year is incredibly rare. In fact, it's only happened 5 times since 1871. This season is already making history.
It's almost like the Atlantic is on fast forward.
Yeah, it is.
And we've seen how much damage a single hurricane like Milton can cause, so the thought of this becoming more frequent is definitely concerning.
It's concerning not just for Florida, but for coastal communities around the world. This trend of increased hurricane activity, fueled by warming waters and other effects of climate change, has global implications.
So if warmer water acts as fuel for hurricanes, and climate change makes that warmer water more likely, what does that mean for the future of hurricanes?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Huh.
Scientists are studying these patterns closely, trying to understand the complex interplay of factors driving these powerful storms. The implications are far-reaching, not just for coastal communities, but for global climate patterns, ecosystems, and ultimately our way of life.
This has been an eye-opening look at Hurricane Milton and what it reveals about the bigger picture of hurricanes and our changing climate.
It's a reminder that we need to be prepared for the unexpected and understand that the impact of these storms goes far beyond the immediate aftermath.
Absolutely. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive. We hope this conversation encourages you to learn more about hurricanes and climate change. Until next time, stay curious.